In this video, I'm going to be finding out which camera I'm taking on holiday this year. Join me and see what my choice is. Roll titles. Hi YouTube, Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again, and it's really good to see you. It's a while since I did one of these chats. I really need to do them more often. I've been very busy. I don't know if you remember in one of my previous videos I said that I've been spending a lot of time trying to fit out a friend of mine who's currently homeless, the back of his van into a habitation, into a van life sort of place, so that him and his dog can have can use it as a mobile home until he actually gets somewhere permanent to live. Struggling trying to get on the housing list and things at the moment, but I spent a lot of time helping about on that one, putting electricity into it, putting dual charge circuits and things in for battery charging, making up a bed, making a kitchen, putting all sorts of bits and pieces in. And I'll bring a video on that very soon. I'll not tell you who the guy is, but he's a very good friend of mine. But I will bring a video of the van build because I'm actually rather proud of it. We've done a great job between the two of us in turning a very utilitarian vehicle into somewhere where you can actually be safe and warm and fed and watered and all the bits and pieces that you need. So keep on watching on the channel for that. So this video, well, what's this video about? Well, I've got a couple of things really. Towards the end of the video, keep watching because I'll tell you about some of the news stories which have came about, which I've noticed in the last week or two. There's some really interesting news and some new developments. But before that, about a year ago, just short of a year ago, because it was about June time that I went on holiday, if you remember. And I went on holiday to Cyprus. And I'm just looking over here because when I went on holiday last, I asked you what camera I should take with me on holiday. Should I take my G9? Because that was one of the choices, my Lumix G9. And as I say, it's big built, big and bulky, but beautiful camera. Or do I take my E-M1 Mark II, which I hadn't been using much of at the time. And I decided on taking the E-M1 Mark II with me on holiday last year. Very successfully, really impressed with the camera and how it performed. Really impressed with it generally, full stop. And it's been used a lot since last year. Hooked me onto using it again. But there was one camera which I'd mentioned last year and we didn't take, but I really in some ways regretted not taking it. And it's this. This is my GX8, and you'll have seen this a few times on this video or on this channel already. I do like this camera. It's built like a brick. It's wonderful. It's a lovely ergonomic design camera with lots of features on it. And I'm going to be taking again, like I did last year, the 14-to-140 lens. Now, I've been talking to a colleague of mine, Paul, and Paul is the gentleman who very kindly loaned me his Lumix Leica 100-to-400 lens recently. And again, keep watching the video because there's a little bit of an update on that as well. But I was saying to him today, I've never felt 100% confident in this 14-to-140 lens. And I don't know why. I've never had bad shots. It's never let me down. It's never been particularly bad at all. It's slightly soft at the long end, but most lenses are, to tell you the truth. And I've come to the conclusion that it's me, it's in here rather than in there, the problem is. So I'm going to be taking this across to Cyprus with me. I'm taking two cameras actually. So I'm taking the G100 with the 12-to-32 lens on, which is what you've seen this video on now. And I'm going to be taking this with the 14-to-140. I'm also taking up two other lenses with me. I'm going to be taking my 25mm f1.8 Olympus, and I'm also going to be taking my 25mm f1.7 Lumix, because I've never done a back-to-back on the two, and really I should. I'm going to have a quick cup of coffee. I'm going to, excuse me. That's better. Throat's starting to dry up a little bit as I'm talking here. And I'm keen on doing a back-to-back just to see what they're like in real terms beside each other. And is one worth double the price of the other? Interesting question. That also gives me some low light capacity for taking photographs indoors when I go across, because this one, something at about f3.5, I can do with the extra stop or two of speed that I'm going to get from the Prime. So if I'm doing anything indoors, that'll be the ideal one. So that's that taken up. I am going to be doing a slightly different shoot than last year. Last year was very much a holiday shoot. It was meant as the touristy sort of thing, and I will be taking some touristy photographs this time. But one of the things I didn't do last year was go around some of the fantastic historical places, the Tomb of the Kings, for instance, and all sorts of other places, some fabulous historic destinations there. And I'm going to be taking the GX8 out to try and take some photographs of those and see how it performs when I'm doing something a little bit more zoomed in, shall we say, subject-wise, rather than general snaps. So I'm really looking forward to taking the GX8. The GX8 I really have a soft spot for. I wasn't familiar with it when it first came out. It was reviews I saw afterwards which suggested it, and it's become something of a cult classic amongst Micro Four Thirds users. It is bigger than the other rangefinder sort of look. It's larger than most of the rest of the cameras in that range. It is quite substantial, as I say. It is built like a brick, but I really like it. I love the menus on it. I love the handling of the camera. I love the results. It is a 20 megapixel sensor. It was the first of the 20 megapixel sensors from Panasonic Lumix, and I think it's going to give me some really good results. Few people have said about shutter shock, because I'm using the 14-140, and this was notorious about shutter shock with that. But on one of the firmware updates, it did actually have a bit of a get around. And to tell you the truth, I've rarely ever seen any problems with shutter shock on this in the photographs that I take. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if that becomes prominent or dominant in what we're taking photographs of. Should be interesting. So, a couple of things I said I would hit, which is the 100-400. I've had a bad day with that. I've had a very good day first of all, then a very bad day. The very good part, I took a whole load of photographs out at the fish farm just outside Carlisle, I mentioned in a previous video, and I got some really enjoyable shots of some of the wildlife there, birds. Isn't it interesting though? You can hear thousands of birds around you, but whenever you're looking for them, you can't find them. Devious little critters, birds are. But I got some a few nice photographs of birds out there and the landscape. It was a really pleasant afternoon looking out over the water. It did make me realise just why I'm not a wildlife photographer. There's a definite skill in wildlife photography which some people just naturally have, and I don't. So I don't profess to be a great photographer. So only the photographs that you see at the end, they're rank amateur. They really are rank amateur, but I'm happy because I've enjoyed using them, and that's what we've talked about, fun with your photography. I've had fun. The bad part, of course, was Paul came around a little bit earlier and took his lens back. Well, I gave him his lens back. He didn't take it back. I gave him it back. And a big thank you to Paul for that. You've got no idea how grateful I am to people like Paul and Trev and Jerry who've loaned me equipment in the past to do reviews on. Thanks, guys. My channel wouldn't work so well without you, so I do appreciate it. And I maybe will borrow that 100-400 later in the air. What I didn't do was a review of that directly against my 100-300 Mark 1. That would be an interesting video to do. So that's gone back. I'll stick some photographs at the end if any decent ones come out. I'll let you see them towards the end. But other than that, that lens has gone back. And that brings me to the news. Just another slurp of the coffee. Great. I've been looking at a few news articles recently, just keep myself up to line. And there's been some interesting developments in Micro Four Thirds. First of all, I'm really keen on seeing what the results of this are. Lumix have just released a third version, Mark 3, of the fabulous 12-35mm f2.8 lens. It's a Mark 3 version. I don't know what the differences are. I haven't looked at specs. I've just seen it's been released. I haven't looked into it at all. But the previous two versions, the Mark 1 and Mark 2, have been wonderful lenses. And it's going to be interesting to see what's on this. I don't know if it's got better weather sealing. I'm presuming it's probably got some different lens coatings on that stop some of the diffraction or distortions or whatever. And, you always get these new coatings come on. I don't know if it's got a totally different lens layout to the previous versions. I don't know if it's just a slight update or if it's been totally redesigned. I'll have to have a look at the specs. But what I do know is it's a really important lens in that range. It's directly against the 12-40 Olympus lens, which now comes in a Mark II. And if you remember in December, there's a link above, I did a review of the Mark 1. and it's still one of the very, very best pro lenses on the market, irrespective of format, but certainly in the Micro Four Thirds format. So the 12 to 35, although you're losing a little bit, 5mm at the top end, it doesn't make a huge difference. Equivalent on the full frame of a 24 to 70, so it's very much a common sort of focal length range. I think it's going to be a lens which is going to be very, very important as we go forward, to see on this battle between Lumix and Olympus as to what we actually get quality-wise. I'm really keen to get my hands on one and try it. What else has been happening? Well, I looked at a video by Peter Forsgaard, who I really admire what Peter does as a reviewer. I have a lot of time for him. He's an Olympus ambassador, but of course with that he's just been saying about a piece that he'd read from the boss of Sigma, who is basically saying that they're not going to be doing any more development of Micro Four Thirds lenses, which is a shame because I've got a Sigma lens already myself, a 60mm f2.8, and I think it's a wonderful little lens. It looks as though Sigma really aren't catering for the sort of the photographers on Micro Four Thirds. They're not doing anything in the very long telephoto range or in the telephoto zoom range, and that seems to be where an awful lot of the development is going in Micro Four Thirds, insofar as the nature and the sports photography. So maybe that's why they're pulling out. It did seem a bit of a negative thing about Micro Four Thirds being dead, but by the time we've read through it, and Peter's comments do sort of suggest it's more for the fact that there's just not a market for them to put the development costs into, and it's more cost effective to stick to the likes of the E-mount Sony on full frame and APS-C. So that's a bit of bad news, bit of sad news on that one. The reviews of the 90mm Olympus Macro seem to be superb. There's been a lot of reviews done on that, so if you haven't seen any of those, go and check them out. That looks a fabulous lens. So that's where we are caught up on the photography side of things as well, on the news side. So is there anything that you've particularly found interesting recently? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you found anything that you found useful in the 100 to 400 review, because I did find that to be an enjoyable review to do. And before I go, all I'm going to say is keep on taking your camera out, keep on having fun with your photography, and I'll see you next time. Oh, have a look at these photographs. See you soon. Bye-bye.